the Huddle. And welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGUN9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jason.
We got some good stuff to talk about. We're going to recap the Arizona basketball season. We're going to look at the transfer portal and what's going on with T-Mac dropping a little bit in the NFL draft projections, maybe a video that kind of resurfaced that he wished didn't. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, Pat, we're going to start with our Huddle poll question, and that is, of the three Arizona Wildcat men's basketball players in the transfer portal so far, which one is going to be missed the most? Which one is Arizona going to feel the loss of? And that it would be KJ Lewis, Emmanuel Stephen, or Henri Veesaar. Okay. And I know for me, I had to tough choice between A and B. I think anybody picking C is doing a little April Fool's thing here, especially if Stephen barely played and write a little bit of a project. But that's our Huddle poll question, and you can vote on X or our website, and we'll check back at the end of the show and see what the results look like.
Well, my fear is there's going to be a D that we're not expecting. I hope that doesn't happen, but we know that sometimes happens, and suddenly if D pops up, it might shock us all. Hopefully that does not happen. I went with B only because I think Henri Veesaar has established himself as a top of the conference type of player, or near the top of the conference kind of player for a big man. And I think that we're only starting to see where his development is going to go. It's going to only get better. I think KJ Lewis, I think he's an amazing player, a unique player, a passionate player with physicality and great defense, but he's not a great shooter. And that's part of the problem, whereas Veesaar developed into a scorer. KJ Lewis isn't the scorer. I think they're going to miss Veesaar more. That's my thoughts.
Well, KJ Lewis can score going downhill, but yeah, that's why I picked B, because you've got a big man who can move and who can shoot the three and who's still improving, right? And so I was a little surprised and disappointed that Veesaar is in the transfer portal. But I also think, Pat, and we can stick on the transfer portal for a little bit and then kind of go to the recap of the season, what happened in the Duke game. I don't think that you could come back next year with Henri Veesaar, a healthy Mo Krivas, he's healthy, and Toby Awaka. There aren't enough minutes for those three bigs, right? I think only two of those three were going to come back. Now, I'm not saying it should have been Mo Krivas and Toby Awaka, but I'm saying I just don't think there were enough minutes for those three big men all healthy to come back next year.
And I think, we don't, again, we always say this, but we don't know the inner workings. We don't know how the meeting went. Right at the end of the season, they always meet with the head coach. So you don't know what the talk was between Henri Veesaar and Tommy Lloyd. These guys all have agents now, don't forget, Jason. And the agent's job is to get them the most money now, right? That used to be what we talked about when they turned pro. But now it's what can they get and their agent get them in NIL money when they're still, technically an amateur or college basketball player. So you don't know what the agent is telling Henri Veesaar about his market value in NIL. The agent might be telling him his market value is over $1 million a year now, and the U of A is, got him a little less than that. And Tommy Lloyd's telling him,
especially because Mo Krivas isn't going to have a big market value because he was hurt this year, right?
Correct, but Mo Krivas is probably going to get the most playing minutes of those three that we've been mentioning, right? Awaka, Krivas, and Veesaar. So you look at the situation, and do I blame Henri Veesaar for going to the transfer portal? No. Am I frustrated and disappointed? Yeah. And most of my frustration comes around the NIL money, not the playing time. I think there would have been playing time, because you and I both know you can play two of those three guys at the same time. That's not a problem. Tommy Lloyd did it at times this year. He'd do it a lot next year if he had all three of those guys. So it really comes down to money. Is my guess.
I don't like the way KJ Lewis is going in the transfer portal, and apparently he's going no matter what. Like, I'd feel a little less badly about it if he was going in to test things, but the fact that he's not coming back, apparently, no matter what, tells me something kind of went wrong. And we've talked about it all year. I was frustrated that Anthony Dell'Orso, who the Duke coach John Shire called Delaroso in the first time out. We can get to that. We'll get to the Duke game in a second. KJ Lewis should have been starting. He just should have been starting maybe for a couple games when he was struggling early in the season, or had not struggling, but maybe had a little slump. Okay. But Del Orso is a guy to come off the bench and shoot a couple threes. I think KJ Lewis should have been in the starting lineup. And yeah, he was playing almost starting minutes. Okay. But no player wants to not start. Okay. And I wonder if there was anything there. The deal with his field goal percentage, I think, had to do with his wrist injury, though. I think that was why
that was part of it. That was part of it. He's never been a great 3-point shooter, though. He's never been an elite shooter. You're right about him. When he gets the opportunity against certain teams, not every team, he couldn't do it against Duke. He, driving in, scoring is definitely part of his his tool bag. But shooting's not his strong point. I'm with you. Henri Veesaar, I'm really disappointed about. Since he was a freshman, I thought he had the potential to be a very good player, and I said so. And it didn't look good when he was a freshman. It certainly looks really good now. But it was just a sour taste in my mouth when KJ Lewis did it so quickly,
right,
and so adamantly that he's going somewhere else for a fresh start. Real quick, Jason, some of the money being thrown around now is also adding to my frustration with the NIL. We're still hopeful that this settlement that's supposed to happen and get approved next week, that eventually on July 1st will mean that the universities will have basically kind of a salary cap, if you will, on how much NIL each school will be able to give out. But right now they're talking about a salary or an NIL structure for most of the top college basketball programs, somewhere around $3 million, $4 million they were giving out. U of A was right in there, from what I understand. They were giving out the same, very close to the same amount of money that all the other Power 4 top conference schools were giving out. But that NIL money now, they're talking about going up between 5 and 10 million to keep your this is just basketball, Jason. So let's say your NIL money was 3 million this year. Now it's going to have to go up to 6 million next year to keep all your guys and to get all these 5 stars coming in. Where do you get that money?
Yeah.
Where
we don't know what's going on under the hood. It's not like St. John's where Mike Rapoli is bankrolling the team, the vitamin water billionaire. We just don't know. All right. So it also sounds like North Carolina might have some interest in Henri Veesaar. By the way, KJ Lewis, I believe, second leading scorer in the postseason, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go back to the Duke game. Since we were last Tuesday, Arizona did lose in the Sweet 16 to Duke. I don't have a bad taste in my mouth from this game at all. I love the way Arizona fought hard and came back late in that game and almost caught up from a 19-point deficit. They played Duke arguably better than anybody else has before in this tournament. Duke has a generational player in Cooper Flagg. I do have a sour taste from last year when the bracket opened up and they lost to Clemson in the Sweet 16. That bothers me. The Princeton loss the year before bothers me. This one doesn't bother me. They lost to a better team, and they went as far as this team could go. And it was about how good this team was all year, which is around about, 10, 15th, whatever, best team in the country. So I don't have a problem with it. I love the way Caleb Love played late. He looked like an NBA player. And so it is what it was against Duke. You ran into a really good team. Your thoughts on the game before I get to a point I want to make about Jaden Bradley?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not disappointed. I fully expected this to be a really difficult game for Arizona to win. I gave them the long odds to win the game. I was still hopeful as an Arizona fan. I was very hopeful that they would win that game. I think the only disappointing part of the game was that stretch where I think Duke hit something like 20 of 23 shots in a row. I thought the defense had some lapses and the offense just kind of went away.
Early second half.
And it was just, it really started, Jason, with the 3-pointer that broke the tie, then the quicker than I would like to have seen 3 by Caleb Love, and then the Cooper Flagg 3-pointer at the buzzer. That little 6-point swing really kind of set the tone for the start of the second half, and Arizona didn't have the match, if you will, for Duke in that stretch. But then, as you said, I commend them for everything they were able to do, and I will not knock Caleb Love for shooting that ball early at the end of the first half, because Caleb Love was the best player on the floor for a time there in the second half, and he's the reason why they came back. I think you and I talked about it. I think we even talked about it on KG9 the other night, that we thought that Caleb Love probably played his way into potentially being drafted now, or at least getting a 2-way contract where he can show that he has the ability to play. I think he's improved dramatically in the last month or so, at least with his consistency. And I think that bodes well for his future playing professional basketball. But yeah, I think overall, this was kind of a microcosm of the whole season, Jason. They were just not quite good enough to beat the top team in the country. I don't think there's any question that right now Duke looks like the best team in the country.
Jason Barr, Pat Parris here on the Huddle, KGUN9's weekly sports talk show, and you can put comments in the comment section on the platform that you're watching, and we might read them. I think the Duke Houston game is the championship game. I think those are the two best teams. That's the one I'm really looking forward to seeing on Saturday. I want to make a point about Jaden Bradley, who played 30 minutes. Normally plays a little bit more, but he had 2 fouls in the first half. And I like Connor Martinez, who was in the game, and I hope he comes back and has a more of a role next year than he did this year. And I like having a pure point guard in there. But I don't like not playing Jaden Bradley in the sense that just because he had 2 fouls. And just in the way that analytics has made NFL teams go for it more on 4th down, what good does a player do on the bench? I know he's got 2 fouls in the first half, but he's not doing your team any good on the bench. And he's not playing a position where he's likely to commit more fouls. It's not like he's a forward or a center, And if he commits a 3rd foul, well, so be it. Then he goes to the bench. He wasn't helping you on the bench, or if he fouls out even, so be it. He goes to the bench. He wasn't helping you on the bench before, So I'm not really a fan of just having this steadfast rule: 2 fouls in the first half, you're on the bench until the second half starts.
I'm a guy that looks at analytics a lot too, Jason, and I would agree with you to a certain extent, but in this particular case, I'm going to disagree, and that's because Jaden Bradley as well is one of those kind of unique players. He's a second half workhorse for this team. He has been basically his whole career, but especially this year. He's the kind of guy that shines best and brightest in the second half, and he got those 2 quick fouls in a half where Arizona was getting called for a lot of fouls because Tobe Awaka got in the same situation where you get kind of handcuffed by officials making a lot of calls, and all of a sudden your point guard, or the guy that handles the ball the most has 2 fouls, and you need him in the second half. And the reason why you don't leave him in is you don't want to pick up a 3rd foul. You're right. He plays at a position that doesn't normally get fouls called against him, but he had 2 fouls. Don't forget, if he gets a 3rd, he's in big trouble, because by the second half, they're just going to go after him and get him with a 4th. And then what happens when a guy gets 3 or 4 fouls? He starts playing back and not playing the aggressive defense. And Jaden Bradley is a heck of a defender, and you do not want to compromise him by having 3 or 4 fouls on him that he knows he can't pick up another one. So I didn't have a problem with that. That's not why they lost the game. They lost the game because they just kind of disappeared for a few minutes there early in the second half.
Yeah, the argument that I would make is that, okay, to play devil's advocate on my earlier argument would be, all right, well, if a guy's in foul trouble, then the other team is going to go at him because they might feel he's going to play a little softer defensively. I can see that, but I'm just not a huge fan of putting somebody on the bench just because they've got, a couple fouls. Yes, in some games, the last 2 minutes is what counts, but in other games, once we get to the last 2 minutes, it's, the game's already been decided. So anyway, just a thought I had there for especially with a guard having 2 fouls. So anyway, Arizona loses.
Look at the shot, though, Jason, real quick. Look at this shot. This photo encapsulates exactly what Cooper Flagg is and why he's going to be such a successful pro. It's not as if they didn't play him well on this play.
No,
he dribbles down. You got a 7-footer with his hand up in his face. He shoots over him and he sinks it. It's just, the guy is, you call him a generational player. He might be one of the, top handful of players ever as a freshman at Duke, probably the best freshman, obviously, because he's got the freshman scoring record and everything in the ACC. So if he played for 4 years, he would go down as the greatest Duke Blue Devil of all time. He surpassed Christian Laettner. Christian Laettner is only considered the best because he played all 4 years.
Yeah, it was a completely different Christian Laettner.
Completely different era. He won 2 national championships at Laettner, while Flagg is potentially going to win 1, and then he's done.
Yeah, he's on another level.
He really is.
All right, I want to spend a few minutes, Pat, talking about the NFL draft and Tetairoa McMillan. The NFL draft is going to be on KGUN9 later this month. And Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, his draft stock has dropped a little bit here because apparently a video is resurfaced and we don't know when it's from. And it's kind of, if you haven't seen it, I'll try to explain it. He's like at a lunch table or a cafeteria with somebody, and they've kind of got, I'll do the phone. They've kind of got the phone here. So it's like at an angle. And somebody asked T-Mac if he likes watching film or watching football. And T-Mac says, no, I really don't like watching film. I really don't watch it. We just watch it as a wide receiver group. And so a lot of people are taking away from that. Here's a guy who doesn't love football. Do you really want to draft a guy that high who doesn't love football? Then there was a little bit of chatter, which I think is BS, but a little bit of chatter that earlier in the season when his body language on the sideline wasn't fantastic. Listen, his body language is fine. What do you want the guy to be happy that they're getting their butts kicked?
Right.
Come on. His body language was fine. Okay.
The
guy was a great player. And we don't know when this video was. Everybody makes a little mistake. I didn't see a guy who wasn't given anything less than 100% anywhere on that field.
I agree. And I don't know that that's why, we've seen him, you say his stocks dropped. I just looked up one of the ESPN mock drafts has him going 12th to the Cowboys, which is down from where he was. We know his 40
now,
time.
I do have a little criticism. Let me hear what you have to say.
We know his 40 time isn't lightning fast, but it was faster than Larry Fitzgerald's. It was, about par with a lot of other big bodied receivers like he is. So I don't think that was it. And we know that when he went to the combine, he didn't do the workouts, but he did the test, and he set the record for the test that the NFL gives for wide receivers. So we know he's smart. He's got his football IQ's through the roof. I don't think anybody that knows him talks about him dogging it on plays or being unhappy. Or to me, he's
the antithesis of one of those diva wide receivers.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. And I think that's the knock that's social media wise. I doubt that's anywhere in the stock of an NFL scout. I really think what's happening is we're getting closer to the draft. We're now just weeks away, and what you're seeing is a more understanding of what teams need, their greatest needs are, and what they're likely going to draft. And all of a sudden, the second best wide receiver in the draft is going to go 12th. He's not going to go 4th or 5th or 6th like we thought earlier. I don't think it has anything to do with any of that.
I know the Cardinals don't need a wide receiver, but boy, would I love him to go to Arizona.
It would be awesome.
Larry Fitzgerald Jr. and just be up the road. My one criticism of him is I thought, especially early in the season, he looked tired at the end of games. I asked Brent Brennan that, and I thought, well, maybe it was because he was coming off a foot injury. Maybe he wasn't 100% in shape those first couple of games. And Brennan said, well, we're asking a little bit too much of him, all the blocking he has to do, switch sides of the field in on every play. But I don't think I was wrong. I do think he looked a little tired, so if somebody was knocking his conditioning, I'd maybe want to see a little bit more into that. But him as a guy, no, come on. He and Fafita are two good dudes. They really are.
All you need to know is that when Jed Fish left and went to Washington, he was one of the guys that spearheaded the effort to keep as many players as they could under the new regime of Brent Brennan. And that to me spoke volumes. Now, of course, he got NIL money. I understand that. But they also gave him and Noah Fafita, didn't they give some of their NIL money to other players because they felt like
was the report. Yeah,
that was the report anyway. So everything that we hear, the little bit of interaction as media members that we're allowed to have with him, I don't believe any of the
it's not that much.
No, it's not like it used to be, but no.
Before we finish, he doesn't like to be interviewed. Doesn't like to call attention to himself. Before we finish up with the Huddle poll question, boy, it's tough being on X today. I mean, I don't know what's real. I mean, when it's not April Fools, you don't know what's real and what's not real.
Correct.
Okay. Then we're on X today. I have no idea.
And same with this is Instagram. They'd have you believe that LeBron James' influence has already taken over McHale Center.
University of Arizona changing its name from historic McHale Center to what? LeBron James Center?
It was the James and Family Center.
Called James and Family Center.
Not true. April Fools. Not true.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I wish I had thought of that.
24 million. Don't you wish LeBron would donate $24 million to the athletic department? I'll name it whatever you want.
I got to fit that in the 6:00 show today. That's great. Chuck Cecil eligible. We've made fun of this eligibility. Kirk Kreese is about to get a 6th year or something like that. So we make fun of this eligibility and how many years guys are getting with red shirts and COVIDs and all that.
Who doesn't need a guy returning an interception 106 yards, Jason? Everybody
Chuck Cecil
does.
eligible for another year. Where did this from? I was going to text.
This was Arizona football. They did it themselves.
So they know all about. Okay, so they did. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
They staged the photo. That's Chuck in one of the uniforms. So
for those that don't know, on K-Gun, I did a story a couple of years ago of one of the high schools here with really nice facilities about how they were going to start a bobsledding team, and we kind of did an April Fool's at the end. But we have to be careful with that because we're the news and we need to differentiate ourselves from all the stuff that's out there that's not real,
especially on social media.
So we have to be careful. But boy, it would be fun to do an interview with Chuck Cecil about about him having another year of eligibility.
Chuck's body may not be in prime condition anymore, but his mentality is still fierce. He could still he'd scare me coming across the line of scrimmage.
LeBron James is. Hey, listen, Bronny's doing well. He's having some success in the G League. I haven't seen too much of him with the Lakers.
Yeah, he does. That does not translate. The G League success is not translated to the NBA.
Maybe it will. All right, let's finish up.
Give him time, Jason. He should have been his 2nd year of college basketball, and he would have been fine one more year. He might have been terrific, but
he's got to have good mechanics. All right, let's finish up with our Huddle poll question. The results, which are people agreed with you. I think you made a little strong case for Henri Veesaar, and I think he's just a little bit more unique. KJ Lewis is a good player, but there's a lot of wings. And like I said, how many Henri Veesaar 7-footers who can shoot and move like he can? And so I think there's a little bit of that.
And don't forget, even the analysts throughout the end of the season were saying that Henri Veesaar can play at the next level.
Yeah, I kept hearing that.
And I don't believe they mean you should go out now. I think they mean give him one more year of development, and he can play at the next level. So and that's the uniqueness of you can't coach size, right? Size is what it is. You can coach a guy up that's 7 feet, and that's what they've done.
All right. So like you said, hopefully there won't be a D, meaning a 4th player who transfers. Inevitably, there might be.
Real quick, that's part of the frustration is that Arizona gets credit. Tommy Lloyd gets credit for bringing Henri Veesaar over here and get him in the weight room and, the training staff and all, and getting him to be the player that he finally was here at this. And then, thanks, I'm leaving. See you later.
Yeah, it's one thing if there was a falling out. We see we can tell when there's a falling out.
Right. There was not a falling out.
No. And so that's what's disappointing. But maybe he'll be one of those guys who comes back. I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't get the NIL money. His agent tells me
there's some chatter of North Carolina being interested. Who knows? So we'll see.
But Arizona was better than North Carolina this year. So I don't know. It's not, the grass isn't always greener just because it's it's one of the blue bloods. So
you and I know that. Yeah. All right. This has been the Huddle, KGUN 9's weekly sports talk show. It was a good show, covered some stuff. And Pat and I will be right back here next week, same time. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you then.